Hey, hey, y'all. Sunday, July 18th. And we are not home. We are on the road. We are in Fayetteville, Arkansas. And we are a little groggy. We stayed up very late last night at the Woody Guthrie Folk Festival in Okemah, Oklahoma, which is the birthplace of Woody Guthrie. And this was a several day event. Jaimee got there on Tuesday.
Yeah, Tuesday night.
So Jaimee got there Tuesday night and spent the week at the festival. And I got there on Friday night very late. Took 9.5 hours of travel to get there by airplane from Nashville. Don't even ask. It was an ordeal. But I got there, and Saturday I did a small panel and talked about my book, and got to present a little workshop around my book at the Crystal Theater, which is an old movie theater that Woody Guthrie went to as a child and saw movies with his mom. And it still exists, and it's an important part of the Woody Guthrie Folk Festival. Saturday afternoon, Jaimee performed a show with a small band at the Crystal Theater and crushed it. You were amazing. Absolutely beautiful show. And then last night, I took the stage at 11 p.m. On an outdoor stage and performed the closing set at the Woody Guthrie Folk Festival. And then we brought everybody up who was still there, the musicians, and we all sang This Land Is Your Land and the big finale, which was a treat. And then the tradition is to then go to the hotel where all the musicians stay and stand in the parking lot and people swap songs. And so we did a little bit of that. I didn't allow us to stay there till sunrise, but
Which is good that you did that.
we did stay. We didn't get back to the hotel till almost 3. Yeah, so almost 3, and then we got up at 8 and got the car repacked and drove to Fayetteville. And now Jaimee's gonna put her head down. We're on the road. We are on the road. We are doing makeup dates as well. So we're here in Fayetteville. This date has been on the books for over a year, this Arkansas date. And so we're excited to say that the show did sell out tonight, and they moved it to an outdoor venue, which allows for a larger audience. So we'll be playing outdoors tonight at 8 o'clock. But I wanted to connect with you all. I'm sorry we don't have our really good sound that we usually have. We brought everything except the mic stand. We forgot the mic stand in Nashville. And so we just couldn't hold that heavy thing and do this thing. So we have a smaller mic and a lesser quality sound today. But really what I wanted to do today anyway was talk about the book. Since the last show that we did with Betty Sue, the 4th of July weekend in Bellows Falls, Vermont, here on the live stream, so much has happened with my book release. I've done a couple of live streams. The big launch release with the local bookstore was in Nashville, online with my dear friend Allison Moorer for the Parnassus bookstore. I want to thank all of you who supported Parnassus and bought your books from the local bookstore in Nashville. That was incredible. I went in the next day after that and I signed books for over an hour. There were several hundred books that got sold at that event, and I know it was you all supporting the local bookstore, and thank you for that. And then I did a live stream with Brandy Carlisle last week, interviewing me about my book, and she's also in the middle of a release of her book. So she was very generous to do a live stream event with me and interview me for a bookstore in Seattle, which is where she lives, outside of Seattle, Washington. It's called Third Place Books. So we also had a great big success there. Several hundred books were sold on that event too, and we really had a good time talking. I knew
This is a crazy week.
I know. It's a crazy week because we also played 2 shows in Atlanta, which were the first show was sold out and the second show was almost sold out. And then driving to our third show last weekend, I hit a buzzard on the highway. There was a dead animal on the highway and it had buzzards on it. And for all the years I've been doing this, the birds, as they were eating carcass on the highway, always scattered when a car came. Well, this time, one bird did not scatter, and it smashed into the windshield, and we were probably going 60 or 65 miles an hour. And the glass on the driver's side shattered. It entered the coffees we were drinking. We were covered in little bits of glass, and I made it to the side of the road safely, where we then sat for almost 6 hours. It's been a week.
Well, and that's funny. What I was thinking about too was also this week on America's Got Talent, our friend Sarah Potenza sang a song that you co-wrote with Beth Nielsen Chapman.
That's right. Another big thing that happened this week in music world for me and my friend Sarah Potenza is she wowed the judges of America's Got Talent, which is a show that I'm not particularly familiar with, but I can judge from the social media reaction that it's a big show. And she sang a song that I wrote called Worthy. It's a co-write with my friend Beth Nielsen Chapman, and she got a standing ovation from the audience and all the judges. And so I got a big spike in social media on my feeds because the show was gracious enough to put Mary Gaucher's song Worthy on their YouTube post of the show. So we're rooting for her. If it's a show you can win, I'm not sure how those things work, but she sang it in such a really powerful way that she got a lot of momentum, and we're happy for her and pleased that she is experiencing some success from having appeared on that show. Those shows can go either way,
Yeah, and I see that on the feed we have Aaron Konzelman, our friend, fellow Wacoan Aaron Konzelman, who is on The Voice right now, I believe. Or was on the following season. So yeah, good to see you, Aaron.
Go, go, go. These shows are capable of boosting a songwriter's career or a singer's career, and so we wish everybody success who can get into those things and make it work for you. I know it's a tough racket being an artist or being an entertainer, so any little break or big break is very meaningful, and so we're rooting for Aaron and Sarah and the folks who were in that arena. We are not in that arena. We are pretty much ground level here, driving ourselves, selling our own merch, pulling buzzard feathers off our own windshields. That was quite an ordeal. The bird scared us, and I think we had a little bit of residual stuff. Jaimee dropped a glass bottle day before yesterday and almost burst into tears. It was a really loud sound when we hit the bird. So it wasn't just a bird. It was a very big bird that shattered the windshield and really put an end to that car. It was a rental car, so I haven't heard from Hertz yet about what that's going to entail. We'll see. But today's show, I'm talking a lot. I think that today's show I really want to highlight the book, because since the last show, my very first book has been released. And I'm super excited about being an author and traveling the world with my books. Jaimee took off for Woody Fest with 10 cases of my books in the back of her car. And it's just so heavy. It's a hardcover book. So shipping them and carrying them is quite heavy. So she drove them to Woody Fest, and we'll be driving around for the next 7 or 8 days. Show tonight. It's a big show in Fayetteville, Arkansas, and then we're going
Dallas,
to Dallas and
Austin.
Houston, Austin, We've got some stuff coming up on the road, a lot of stuff coming up on the road. So I'd like to kick it off with a song and then a reading. And what we'd like to do today, I think, is talk about the thesis of the book and the ideas that I'm presenting in my book, in case you haven't read it or don't have it, or want to ask questions about what I'm up to with this book. It's a memoir of sorts. A huge amount of story did not get in there, but I do tell a bit of my life story, but only the parts that relate to songwriting. What I'm doing with the book is talking about songwriting and using my life as a way of talking about songwriting. What I'm trying to do is argue in the book that songs can be, in many ways, much more than entertainment. I see music and song as a particularly powerful tool to help people deal with trauma. And so I have used music for that myself. It's been a big part of my recovery. As most of you probably know, I'm in recovery from addiction and alcoholism. And I had a big moment also last week. I celebrated my 31st sober anniversary, 31 years. So a big part of being able to stay sober, I honestly believe this, is becoming a songwriter and using music to anchor me to purpose. And a big part of what I view my job is, as a songwriter, is service. Purpose and service are very related. And so I talk about this in great depth in the book. But I'm going to play a song with Jaimee at the top here that I wrote with our friend Joshua Gertz. And Josh was an Army veteran that I wrote with at a Songwriting with Soldiers retreat. A lot of you know him if you're active on the socials, because he is too, and he's very conversational. Josh and Lisa are dear friends, and Josh and I were able to be on television together. CBS This Morning featured a story on Josh and I in Songwriting with Soldiers, and I also got to share the stage with Josh at the 90th anniversary of the Grand Ole Opry at the Ryman Auditorium in Nashville. And Josh got a massive standing ovation at that sold-out show at the Ryman. A big, big moment for both of us. And we played a song that we co-wrote at a songwriting retreat many years ago. It's called Still on the Ride. And this is Josh's story, or at least some of it. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my guitar, and Jaimee and I are going to give this a shot. How you holding up, Harris? She's tired.
You know, if I'm not talking, then I'm really tired.
She's been up very, very late all week, hanging with her friends and playing songs. And the Woody Guthrie Folk Festival really is a gathering of a community. And songwriters and fans of songs gather there every year. And it's been many years of this festival. So Jaimee got to see all her friends and stay up late and play music. Butch Hancock was there, who we adore.
Love.
And Betty Sue and Bonnie Whitmore.
And John Fulbright. Got
John
to hang out with John Fulbright.
Patty Griffin. So many friends. Anyway, still on the ride. Looking back now, who the hell knows where the soul of a dead soldier goes? Guardian angels, maybe they're true. My guardian angel, maybe it's you. I shouldn't be here, you shouldn't be gone. But it's not up to me who dies, who carries on. I sit in I close my eyes. Me and my guardian angel are still on the ride. I got holes in my eardrums, bruises and clots, double vision, and my stomach's in knots. I got pain in my fingers, I hurt from my head to my toes. I wake up feeling like I'm 90 years old. I shouldn't be here, you shouldn't be gone, but it's not up to me who dies, who carries on. I sit in my room and I close my eyes. Me and my guardian angel are still on the ride. My brother, more than a friend. You were family to me right up till the end. You're still with me now, I feel you, I know. You're pushing me forward and you'll never let go. I shouldn't be here, you shouldn't be gone, but it's not up to me who dies and who carries on. I sit in my room, I close my eyes. Me and my guardian angel are still on the ride. I shouldn't be here, you shouldn't be gone, but it's not up to me who dies, who carries on. I sit in my room, I close my eyes. Me and my guardian angel are still on the nice. Yeah, still on the ride. Let's play another one from the Veterans record, and then I'll do a little reading. Everything good there? We all right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so today's show is really gonna center on the book, but I did want to start with songs. I think the title of the book came after a while. I didn't start with Saved by a Song. I started with Why Songs Matter.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, and it evolved into Saved by a Song, which is close, but I think it's a better title. And I really believe that music and song have been a salvation for me. And I've heard John Hyatt say that. I think you feel the same way,
Oh,
right?
yeah. Mm-hmm.
And can you articulate that in a way? Why would you say something so big? That's a big thing.
Well, I guess as a little person, like before I was a songwriter, music took me to a different place. Kind of like a book does, I guess. Like it opens different worlds.
It opens new worlds.
It opens new worlds, and it also was able to articulate experiences I was having, even as a young person, that I couldn't articulate.
But music and song could.
But music and song couldn't, so I could say, hey, this song, like, oh my gosh, that's how I
That's
feel.
how I feel.
I didn't, or that you explained, like, I like some songs when I'm just like, oh my gosh, they read my diary.
Yeah.
Actually, you know, it's funny, when I fell in love with your Trouble in Love record. I love that record. It's such a jam.
Thank you.
And I think one of the greatest lessons you've taught me as a songwriter is how writing specifically makes a song more intimate. You think it'd be the opposite, but it doesn't. So you have a detail in there. It's what, like 1311?
14th Street.
13th Street.
1411 13th Street.
And I even lived at 1611 13th Street.
Wow.
So even that kind of stuff like blows my mind. I'm like, this is my life. You know, this is like basically my address. You know, it just like you just it made me feel seen. And then I think for, you know, I didn't my dad was, I mean, encouraging me to write songs from a financial standpoint, from the standpoint of, you know, if you own your own songs, and this is where a lot of the fun comes in, is like being a writer. You know, and but I didn't think I could do it. It wasn't until after I saw, you know, Patty Griffin and Julie Miller and Emmylou Harris and Buddy Miller all on the same day. Yeah. And seeing Julie Miller, that I knew had spent time in Waco, like, oh, this person is from Waco and she's like a real songwriter, that's her job, like, blew my mind. But even then it was like I didn't realize what was happening. I was just writing songs. It's not until you look back that you realize.
Yeah,
it's not like, wow, this song is saving my life.
No,
it's in
retrospect.
My world. It's in retrospect.
That is one of the reasons we write books,
right,
is to get retrospect. This is a retrospective, and I think that you wound around and got to a really good word, because it's through writing that you make sense of your experiences. Mm-hmm. Flannery O'Connor wrote that I write so I can read it, so I can know what I think. And I think that's real brilliant. Mm-hmm. And so this is how I made sense of the last 30 years of my life. Actually, I make sense of my whole life. But really, as I became a songwriter, what happened was I started to deal with things that had been deep inside of me that I didn't understand. And it was like going in and pulling up ancient... It's like being an archaeologist. It's going in and digging with a paint by numbers paintbrush and a little, a scoop, and you pull the dirt off of the bones, and the dinosaurs there, and it's intact. And so the archaeology of writing starts to become a way of making sense of your life. And for me, I had to go in and make sense of trauma, which I didn't even know I had. I didn't know I had trauma. And I think a lot of people with trauma don't know they have trauma. They just know they have pain. And that's how I ended up an alcoholic and an addict. I was medicating the pain. And so when I took away the drugs and I took away the alcohol, what happened was I got more in touch with the pain. And so music and song helped me to make sense of it and articulate it. And in that way, this sounds like a big word, transform it. There's something transformative about writing your way to the other side of really hard stuff. Mm-hmm. And so I'm going to read a passage and then we'll play another song. And I'm going into this conversation because I wanted to get into the backstory of the book in case you weren't on either of the Zooms that we've done. For the listeners that are with us today. Thanks for joining us this afternoon. We're in Fayetteville, Arkansas. We're at a really nice little hotel here downtown, and we're playing here tonight, an outside show. So, the first year I lived in Nashville, I'm reading from Saved by a Song, I was invited to a party at music photographer Jim McGuire's house that became a song circle with Guy Clark, Lyle Lovett, John Hyatt, Joe Ely, Steve Earle, and Nancy Griffith. It was a wonderful night, and I was on the edge of my seat, desperately wanting to go from being in the audience to swapping songs with that group of legends. I knew I was in deep waters. I was the new kid in town, but oh, how I longed to sit in that circle. I'd deeply admired everyone in it for years. As the music was winding down, Nancy Griffith looked over and asked, "Mary, would you play us a song?" I knew her because I'd opened a string of shows for her a month prior. I was absolutely thrilled when she invited me to play. I sat in the chair she offered, took her guitar in my hands, and I played Our Lady of the Shooting Stars. The other songwriters closed their eyes and nodded as I played. Some smiled. No wild applause or pyrotechnics when the song ended, but the smiles and nods made me feel like I belonged there. I still had a long way to go, but joining that circle was a validation that moving to Nashville had been a good decision. Holding my own in that circle of songwriters whose records I owned and whose careers I followed gave me confidence. Being around songwriters I deeply admired humanized them and made the star I was reaching for feel less distant. When I was done, I handed Nancy her guitar back. She shook her head and said, "No, you keep it." I froze, holding her engraved signature sunburst Taylor 612 cutaway guitar in midair, question marks in both of my eyes. "It's yours," she said. "When I moved to Nashville, Harlan Howard gave me his guitar. I'm giving you mine." I was speechless, but somehow I found the courage to say, "Would you sign it for me?" And she did. She signed for Mary, because you will sing. I found out later it's an old Nashville tradition to pass on a guitar. It's an attempt to stay on the good side of the muse and the mystery. Some songwriters believe it is one way to keep songs flowing. Harlan Howard gave Nancy one of his guitars because he felt there were no more songs left in it for him, but there may be some in there for her. Nancy had done the same for me. Welcome to Nashville, kid. Remember to stay on the good side of mystery and paradox. They are your wheelhouse now. It's a little passage from the book. We should play Our Lady of the Shooting Stars since we mentioned it. And if you all have questions for me, please pop them in the chat, and I'll try to address them today. Today's conversation about Saved by Song, and a few songs as well. Lady of the Shooting Stars, was it you last night? Did we dance a whispered waltz? Did I hold you in my sight? When morning came with open arms, she lifted you from me. Sunlight burned my eyes away, now I cannot see. Lady of the Shooting Stars, as I face the early light, all that I can think of now is joining you in flight. But I followed gypsy's girl, lost my way home, held the phoenix to my chest and ended up alone. If I move to you, will you move to me? If I move to you, will you move to me? Our Lady of the Shooting Stars, teach me how to know. Won't my thoughts go dark and rest in your flow. I'll awaken without fear, breathe the cool, clean air. With your words on my lips, your will is my prayer. And if I move to you, will you move to me? If I move to you, will you move to me? Our Lady of the Shooting Stars, look what you've done. You led me to the water's edge, running from the sun. Are you in the briny mist? Do seagulls scream your name? Their wings suspended by your love, or do I reach in vain? If I move to you, will you move to me? If I move to you, will you move to me?
So we do have a question.
A good one.
I like this
Yay.
question. I don't know what the answer is, so I want to know. It's, Linda Pritchett-Hammer wants to know, have you given anyone your guitar?
I have not. Hi, Linda. I'm glad you're with us again. The world of guitars changed a lot.
It did. It has, yeah.
In the old days, when I first got to Nashville, which I guess is the old days now, it was 22 years ago, artists would get endorsement deals with guitar manufacturing companies. And so Taylor manufactured several signature guitars for Nancy Griffith with her NCG, which is her name, Nancy Claire Griffith, in Mother of Pearl on the 12th fret, embedded in the neck. And they gave her a handful of those. And she would endorse that company. And Harlan had an endorsement with the Gibson Guitar Manufacturing Company. And so the long story short is I pay full price for my guitars. And so I have not been in a position to be handing them off. And also, once I started with this one, this is the one I play. This is like the only one I play. So it's the cover of the book, and I'm holding on for dear life for this one. I do not have a guitar collection. I don't have several guitars that I rotate. You know what?
Maybe we should think about that to stay on the good side of the muse.
Stay on the good side of the muse. Maybe so. Maybe so. Willie Nelson actually has played the same guitar since 1964.
Right.
Do you know, I talked to Paul English about the history of that guitar when I opened for Willie. That story did not make the book. Paul English was Willie's drummer forever. He also collected the money at the end of the night and always traveled with a gun in his boot. He handled the money. But Paul said when we bought that guitar, we were playing behind chicken wire in bars all around Texas and Oklahoma. And I don't know, understand the chicken wire. I guess that was the you can't jump on the stage thing.
Well, it's not just that. It's that people would throw bottles, and so the chicken wire, if you throw it into a
stopped
bottle, it stops. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Anyway, he said they paid he said $5. They paid $5 a week for that guitar for 2 years. He didn't have the money to buy it up front. So Trigger, Willie's famous guitar, they paid for over 2 years in installments. And that's the only guitar he has. He does not have a backup guitar. When I was on tour with him, they told me the story of it. If it needs to be worked on, Mark Erlewine in Austin works on the guitar, and he's the only luthier who works on it. But if the guitar goes down, the tour stops. There is no backup guitar.
There's a great YouTube video, I think it's about 25 minutes long, about him working on Trigger and the history of Trigger and Willie buying it and the whole experience. It's a great little YouTube video. I'll see if I can find it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
I'll share it with everyone.
I actually went to Mark Irwine's shop in Austin once, and Trigger was there just by accident.
What?
I got pictures of it close up, and also held it. But I held it when I was on tour with him too, because it was in the bus. The Willie's guitar always rode in the crew bus, and I rode in the crew bus because that was a non-smoking bus. All right, I'm going to read another book passage. A song coming into the world is a living thing. It's a wild animal. My work is to not scare it away with too much scrutiny. Songs speed in and out along underground superhighways unmarked by road signs, a place where wild-eyed dogs jump out of ditches in front of headlights at night. I try to quickly write down what I see, even if it's nonsense. Thinking at this point might scare the song away. This is no time for analysis or editing. When I get a quick glimpse of some wild-eyed ditch dog in my headlights, I hit the brakes, stop the car, get out, and follow her. If she runs into the woods, I run into the woods. If she suddenly turns around, looks at me, and becomes an angry parrot with a lit cigarette in one of her claws and the sound of my mother's voice coming out of her mouth, I nod and take note of what she is saying. My challenge is to keep going without knowing where I'm headed. I will take disjointed images, hunches, thoughts, and feelings, combine them with ideas and visions, and mold these disparate clues into some kind of sequence. Dead-end roads abound, but if something feels right, I'll go with my gut. Songs are a faint whisper from the future that pull from the past and seep into the present. A songwriter is the role of a medium, with one eye in the now, one eye in memory, and the third eye focused on the other side of the thin veil of the future, trusting that it will somehow all come together. At some point, I do get stuck. I might have a verse and maybe a chorus, and it's starting to sound promising, but then, suddenly, nothing. Silence. Crickets. Getting stuck is just a part of the songwriting process. So I have to decide, do I abandon this half-written opus? If there's no taproot to some kind of deeper pull, I will put it to the side. Not every song I start is mine to write. But if I feel that what I've started is connected to something compelling I can't yet see, I hang in and look for ways to keep it going. A short nap is often helpful. I lay down with a melody in my head and doze off. Sometimes I wake up with the right next word or idea as my first thought.
Jealous.
The painter, Salvador Dali, would doze in his chair in the afternoon with a glass in his hand, holding it over an empty pot. When he fell asleep, the glass would fall into the pot, make a clang, and wake him up. Then he'd paint his dream visions onto a canvas. I also walk. I read in an interview somewhere that writers walk, and ever since then, I made walking a part of my writing practice. I'll head for the hills near my house in Nashville and climb until my heart pounds and sweat drips down the back of my neck. My melody will autoplay on repeat in the radio station in my head. I just listen. Walking can entice the song forward in some way. Having my feet on the earth helps me connect spirit to sky. On a few occasions, I have walked straight into an epiphany. There is something sacred in the electricity that surges between song and songwriter. Lightning rod in hand, I follow flashes of ideas and inspiration. My work is to be a receiver. The process can be otherworldly, as if a visitor takes over my writing and then vanishes. Sometimes I discover what a song means years after I've written it. Janice Ian said, "It's the talent that leads. We're just trying to keep up. We usually throw things into songs that don't make a lot of sense at the time, but feel right in the gut. Learning to listen to that small voice is what makes all the difference." Leonard Cohen said, "Being a songwriter is much like being a Catholic nun. Ultimately, we are married to a mystery. The best songs keep their inscrutability intact as they convey complex emotion across borders and across boundaries." Any questions in the feed?
I have a question.
Oh, good. Thank y'all for asking questions.
This is fun. I like the question part.
I like the questions too.
So Linda Stallings says and wants to know, during a course, Mary told me to write a song to my 8-year-old self and to be kind to her. This advice resulted in my signature song.
Oh, beautiful, Linda. That's wonderful news.
Right? That's so cool. And so her question is, what does Mary consider her signature song and why?
Well, it changes over time. For a long, long time, my signature song was "I Drink," and then became "Mercy Now." And right now, I feel like I'm in transition, and I'm not sure what my signature song is, and I don't know if you can really answer that question. It's very subjective. Oftentimes, a person's signature song is a hit that they've written, that they've identified with. A song that that the most number of people have heard is generally what a signature song references when you talk about an artist's signature song. It's the one that's heard by the most people.
I was going to say maybe the deal is that the public would say,
"This is your signature
song," but maybe the writer would have a different answer.
I agree. Our friend Ray Wally Hubbard wrote a hit for Jerry Jeff Walker, "Up Against the Wall, Redneck Mother," and I don't know if he ever plays that song.
I've never heard him
He's
play
been
it.
identified with that song because it's a hit, but he doesn't feel as though it's something that he wants to perform. And so he doesn't. I've never heard him play it.
Actually, I have heard him play it, but it's been a long time. But he does play Snake Farm every time.
And that's become a signature song
And that's
for him.
become a signature song as well.
And the Messenger song, the song with the mention of Rilke. Our fingers are like dragons protecting our most precious treasures. I love that
Mother's
quote.
Blue. I mean, I feel
He has a lot of signature songs.
Yeah.
Like try to pin a signature song on Willie. Hit after hit after hit. I remember the first time I saw Willie play was at the Newport Folk Festival in Newport, Rhode Island. And he played for over 75 minutes and every single song was a #1 smash hit. That's a career. That's a career. So yeah, signature song has a pretty open meaning. So for me, I don't really know exactly what I feel the most strongly about right now.
But I think Linda, it's so cool that Linda was able to find that. And right now, maybe what that means is that it's the one that is most true.
For her.
For her.
Yeah.
Right now.
Yeah. What a great thing that worked out. Any other questions?
Yeah, there is another question, and I think it's actually answered in the book, if I remember right. Actually,
good.
Diane Bloom wants to know what inspired you to write Mercy Now.
Yeah, I answer that in great detail in the book. And it was a series of events that happened that started with my father getting into an automobile accident that he never really recovered from. And my relationship with him was forever changed because of that car crash. And maybe I'll find that passage in the book and read a bit of that. If you... I love this question. How do you know when a song is finished?
I know, I just sent that to us.
Doug, good question. I used to answer it by this way. I used to say, when I'm willing to play it in front of Guy Clark. Because I used to tour with Guy, and it's quite the daunting experience to play a new song in front of Guy Clark. I know when a song is finished in my gut now. I feel it. I feel as though it's absolutely the very best I can do. when I know I've walked around it 1,000 times, circled it over and over and over again, and run every single thing that I've written through the process of what I call my truthometer. And I know that it's as good as I can make it. And I have no doubts left about the effort that I put in. That's when it's done. That doesn't mean it's a great song. I just can't make it greater. And that's when I know, when I've reached my the limits of my talent. When I don't have anything I'm trying to get away with or sneak in because I don't know how to fix it. When I'm sure I've done my best is the best I can do. And that's when I'm done with it, because I know I've given it my all. Let me look for that passage around my father. It's 103 is that chapter. Yeah, let me read this. Mercy Now, the beginnings of Mercy Now. For me, it started with my dad, and this was being written in 2002, early 2002, when we were building up to war in retaliation for the attacks of 9/11. And so that was happening as my dad was losing his cognitive abilities after getting into a car wreck. And so I was sitting on my bed in a small motel room in Canada, thinking about my father. He'd wrecked his car on the way to Rouse's grocery store in Thibodaux, Louisiana, and landed upside down in a ditch. Taken by ambulance to the hospital, he ended up in withdrawal from alcohol, suffering TIAs, which are small strokes of the brain that left him with Alzheimer's-like symptoms. He ended up in a home with a round-the-clock nurse. My sister called to tell me he was not improving and I should go see him while I could. So I got on a plane. When I arrived, a nurse was sitting in a chair guarding the only exit door to the street. I asked her why she was blocking the door, and she said my father had walked out into the street and almost gotten hit by a car. He became agitated when she stopped him from going outside again. She looked exhausted. I thanked her for watching over him. She said he was in his bedroom. I approached hesitantly. I poked my head in and said, "Hey, Daddy, it's Mary. How are you?" He looked up from the bed where he was sitting, fully clothed, shoes on, staring at the wall. "We have to stop them," he said. I said, "Hey, Dad, do you know who I am?" "We have to stop them. We have to go now. Let's stop them." I put my hand on his shoulder. "Dad, why don't you just lay down? I can lay down next to you, okay? Let's rest a little while." He ignored me, got up, walked to the kitchen, and started pacing. The nurse flinched, thinking he was going to try to bolt to the street again. He started searching drawers and cabinets. I asked him what he was looking for. He said he needed to write something down. I found a yellow legal pad and a pencil, and I handed it to him. My father, a man known for his extraordinary penmanship since he was a boy, sat perfectly straight at the kitchen table and proceeded to write gibberish, scratches that looked like the scrawled lines of a preschooler. He held the legal pad up to his chest, looked up and said, "Sir, no, sir, I cannot answer that question, sir." Was he on the witness stand in some kind of military tribunal in his mind? Was he back in Korea, where he'd served several years in counterintelligence during the Korean War? He'd never spoken of the war or of his service. I had no reference for what he was saying. His face had taken on a smooth, healthy glow. His skin was clearer than I'd ever seen it. Before the wreck, he was a daily drinker and a 3-pack-a-day smoker. Had he forgotten he smoked and drank? The thousands of broken capillaries in his face that had covered him from ear to ear, caused by decades of alcoholism, had healed. He looked 20 years younger than the last time I saw him, but his mind was gone. He lost what he was saying in mid-sentence, got confused, put the pencil and paper down, went back to his bedroom, sat on the bed, and began staring again. I followed behind him. He said, "Where's my rosary? I want to pray the rosary." His rosary was on the nightstand next to his bed. I picked it up and handed it to him. As he reached for it, I saw veins and bones sticking up from under the thin skin on his hands and arms, along with clusters of dark brown age spots and IV bruises and scars. I winced and reached for his hand and held it against my heart. I hadn't held my father's hand in over 40 years. He looked at me for a moment, and then he said, "Baby, Daddy is dying." His voice had the sweetest tone. It was gentle. It was kind. No alcoholism, no paranoia, no dark angels, no cruelty. He spoke in the most peaceful and loving way. I did not know this man, or who he thought he was. I no longer knew myself either. Our roles had reversed. I was the parent now, he the child. I felt the urge to protect him, to keep him safe from harm. Our war was over. The fight was no longer fair. The thought of ever battling my father again, mortifying. I suddenly loved my father in a new way, a love void of expectation. I loved him dearly, beyond my understanding of love. I pushed down tears and prayed a silent prayer for Gauthier. I prayed for mercy, for his suffering to stop. Then I put my arms around my father and I held him close. That's where Mercy Now began.
Mm-hmm. Fabulous.
Yeah. Maybe we should play Mercy Now.
Sure.
It feels like the right time. So I ended up leaving Louisiana. I left New Orleans and flew up to Eastern Canada. I had a festival to play that weekend after I saw my father for what turned out to be the last time. And it was in Canso, Nova Scotia, the Stan Rogers Folk Festival. Stan Rogers was a hero. He was a folk legend, but he was in a plane crash leaving the Kerrville Folk Festival. And he got out of the burning plane safely, but he went back in to save people, and he wasn't able to get back out. He died a hero, a legend, and the festival is in his honor every year in Eastern Canada. And so I sang a little bit of this melody that was in my brain, thinking about my father sitting on the bed of a little hotel in Canso. There was only 7 rooms in the whole town.
I remember that, yeah.
Only 7 hotel rooms in the whole town. It's a very small town. And in fact, the lighthouse outside of Canso is the lighthouse that received the distress signal from the Titanic. It's way up there, northeastern Canada. And I sat on my bed and started putting this song together after I saw my dad. So this is where it all began. And I finished it in Western Canada the next weekend when I played the Canmore Folk Festival. So it started in Canso, it finished in Canmore, and I describe the process of writing it in depth in the book. So I'm going to play it for you now. My father sure could use a little mercy now. The fruits of his labor fall and rot slowly on the ground. His work is almost over, won't be long, he won't be around. I love my father, he could use some mercy now. And my brother sure could use a little mercy now. He's a stranger to freedom, shackled to his fear and doubt. The pain that he lives in, it's almost more than living will allow. I love my brother, he could use some mercy now. My church and my country, they could use a little mercy now. As they sink into a poison pit, it's gonna take forever to climb out. They carry the weight of the faithful who followed him down. I love my church and country, they could use some mercy now. Every living thing could use a little mercy now. Only the hand of grace can end the race towards another mushroom cloud. There's people in power who'll do anything to keep their crown. I love life, life itself could use some mercy now. Yeah, we all could use a little mercy now. I know we don't deserve it, but we need it now. We hang in the balance, we dangle between hell and hallowed ground. And every single one of us could use some mercy now. Yes, every single one of us could use some mercy now. Mercy now. Jaimee, if you would post a link to my website where they can get the book.
Mm-hmm.
I signed, what is it, like 3 boxes of 24, like 90 books. I signed 90 books and left them with the person that ships them for us out of Nashville. So I've got 90 signed books in my store on my website. if you haven't gotten one yet, I sure would appreciate it if you get it from me. But if you don't get it from me, you can get it anywhere where you buy books. And I'd love it if you bought a copy of my book. It really would mean a lot to me to do well with this book, because I want to write another one. And that's how it works. In order to write another one, I got to do well with this one. But I've been graced with a really good publishing company. St. Martin's is wonderful, and I've got a great team. They're getting me quite a bit of publicity. I've done a lot of interviews, and hopefully we'll do all right with this book so I can write another one. I've got a bunch of more stories I want to tell, and I wonder, is there any more questions?
We have so many questions.
Okay, let's answer a few questions.
So here, I'm gonna grab something real quick. So we have quite a few questions.
Okay. Okay.
Anyone in particular?
All right, sure. I'll
out?
grab it. Are there any songs that are too painful to reveal to yourself or others?
From Doug Mingus.
Yeah, Doug. Well, no. I don't think so. Not yet, anyway. I mean, I've gone into some pretty challenging topics, but what I find is that that as I face difficult things with a song, that it can transform that pain into something useful for other people. This is actually my experience working with veterans who have PTSD, that as they tiptoe in the direction of the pain, what they find is that once we're able to articulate it in a song, it helps other people who are struggling. And that takes away some of the pain because it is useful. It's useful to other people. And the act of singing through struggle gives people hope. It inspires people. And there's even a school of thought, and I'm in that school of thought, that believes that singing the blues makes you feel better. It brings a transformation that's hard to get any other way. I call it alchemy in the book. So I've sung about dang near everything that has hurt me in this life, and found myself on the other side of it by singing it. Now, I don't write songs that don't have hope. The struggle is real, but there's always hope. Just by singing it, there's hope. You don't get up and sing to people if you don't have hope. And I think that is a redemptive thing, is to sing truth and to stand there and go, man, this is hard, but we shall overcome. And I think that's the foundation of what I do, is to be honest about the struggle, but to then add on something, even if it's just a melody that says, I ain't quitting. I ain't quitting. Like Josh said in his song at the top of the hour, I'm still on the ride. I'm not throwing in the towel. This is hard, but I ain't no quitter. And what happens is people nod and they cry and they come up and they tell me their stories, and that gives me strength. So I give the audience something and the audience gives me something. And it's reciprocity. That's how it works. Let me read a little bit about that. Beyond reason and conscious thought, past my own story, behind firewalls of self-protection and fear, sits a mysterious power that turns a good song into a great song. I've sat for hours trying to figure out a song, hopelessly stuck. My best writing can happen in a kind of trance, an exercise in faith. I only know I've gotten there in retrospect, when words and melody do more than I imagined possible when I put them together. I believe songs that heal come from a higher place. They help us with the struggle of being human by letting us know we are not alone. I think that answers the question there, Doug. This is the greatest gift a song can give a songwriter, and the songwriter can give the world. Bruce Springsteen said, "Music is a repair shop. Basically, I'm a repairman." I love that. Songs have the power to repair hearts and heal souls, saved by a song. So, I think that's probably a good place to end today.
Great, and I'm going to remind people that they can ask Mary questions on the Mary's Missives page as well.
Yeah,
you're
there's a
still
page.
working on
I'm
those,
still
right?
answering questions on the Mary's Missives page on my website. And I'm using those questions actually as writing prompts for my next book. So any questions that I wasn't able to get to today, if you go to my website, Jaimee's going to send that link now. Please send questions, and I'll answer them in long form and send those answers out in email form. Thanks for joining us today. We desperately need a nap before we go to sound check. So Jaimee's fading. She's going down. She's going down. She's going down. She's going down. So we're gonna put earplugs in and put a face mask on. Shut the blinds of this hotel room, and get a quick power nap before we go to sound check for our show in Fayetteville tonight. So please go to marygauthier.com and get a copy of the book. They're signed at my website. There's about 90 of them ready to go, and they hopefully will be shipped out when you order them next week, or order them today and they'll be shipped out next week. Thanks for throwing tips our way. It does help us to improve the quality of our rental cars and get something a little safer now that we know that buzzards can shatter glass windshields. Thank you for getting on with us today. We will do this again next week. We'll be in Houston next week, and I'll be able to do this in the full 90-minute form next week. Michele will be back with us next week, and we'll answer questions. We'll play, we'll sing, we'll read. We'll be there for you 2 o'clock Central Time next week. This week we are, if you're out and about, Arkansas is in trouble. There's a surge here in virus again. This show tonight is outside, social distanced outside show, and mask up in places, y'all, that are surging again. If it's risky, I think in crowded places, in airports, airplanes, we're certainly masked up. So we're Fayetteville tonight. Dallas, there's some tickets left. Dallas, we're playing a place called Wild Detectives on Tuesday. Wednesday, we're in Austin, Texas, playing the Saxon Pub. That's a plug and play. I'm playing in a bar. I never do that, but the place I usually play is not open yet, the Cactus Cafe. We're hoping that it does open. But until then, we're at the Saxon Pub on the 21st. And then we head to Houston Town, where we're doing 2 early shows on Friday and Saturday. Well, 1 on Friday, 1 on Saturday. Instead of 2-show night, I'm doing 1 show each night. And that will be the 23rd and the 24th of July. So much coming up. I've got a songwriting workshop in Nashville the weekend of July 30th.
And I'll be doing the album cover shoot.
Jaimee will be shooting the cover for her new record. I do have a seat left in that workshop if you want to come to Nashville. There's 1 seat left. Somebody couldn't get in across the Canadian border. So there's 1 seat left in the Nashville workshop, which will be held at Thistle Farms. And then we're going to Colorado, Rocky Mountain Folk Festival. We'll be performing at the Folks Festival, and we have tour dates all through December. But we'll see you here at 2 o'clock next week. If you're not doing anything, please join us. Thanks for your questions. Thanks for being part of the story as we carry on. We're gonna mask up now and go nighty-night, power nap before the show. Thanks again, everyone. Sending love from Fayetteville, Arkansas. We'll see y'all next week when we're in Houston, Texas. Take care.